AJ, you guys were 6 outs away from clinching, ALCS berth at home. How did the game change there in the eighth inning?
Well, the eighth clearly wasn't a good inning. They put together some good at bats. They put 5 or 6 singles in a row, had the ground ball up the middle. They just never quit. I mean, they put together really good at bats, and we couldn't get the inning to end in any way. So that's a tough inning. They put up quality at bats. We didn't finish the at bats, and we end up in a tough spot there.
Who else? Okay, right there.
Part, AJ, how do you wrestle? How are you wrestling with who to use in that situation? Because there was a lot of bleeding singles through the course of that top of the eighth inning.
Going into that inning, we've got 6 outs left in the game, 4-run lead. I've got my 3 best relievers, and they went through that whole inning. All of them pitched. So wrestling with it, it wasn't that there were really no tough calls there for me. We got to the pocket with Hosmer, where I wanted to use Sip, and then Luke obviously coming in with Butera. So, the way it mapped out was fine. I take my chances with 6 outs left with Harris, Sip, and Gregerson. It just didn't work today, and obviously 7 runs after the 8th is not a recipe for success for us. But look, this group has been very good for us, and they'll bounce back. We have a day off tomorrow. We have Game 5, but clearly this one's a tough one.
Standing, Brian.
Harris specifically, he wasn't hit really hard, but how do you size up an outing like that when he's not hit hard, but the guys are getting on base with some balls that are finding holes?
The thing that's interesting about that inning is they didn't try to do too much. Harris seemed to make a few pitches. They kept the ball really low. I mean, those to get singles, 5 singles in a row, and even the ball that bounced up on Correa is on the ground. So they, when they were trailing by that much, it looked like their approach was going to be take whatever Harris gave them, or whatever Sip gave them, or whatever Gregerson gave them. They never tried to come out of their shoes and try to change the score with one swing. So credit to them for their approach. Obviously to get 6 base runners on in a row, as a good team offense. I mean, which we've seen out of them for a lot of games, not only in this series, but as you study them and see how they're successful. It usually involves quality at bats, and they execute them.
Right next to.
AJ first, who's going to throw Game 5? And second, how'd you think Lance settled down? He hit Escobar in the first inning, looked like he was a little amped up, but settled down really nicely after that.
McHugh's going to start Game 5, and so he'll be ready to go. I'll have everyone available in Game 5 that you would expect, including Kazmir. So the way McCullers pitched, I was proud of him. He came out of the game, hot with a lot of adrenaline and a lot of intensity, which we would expect. I thought after the Perez homer, I thought it was nice to see him settle down and execute some pitches and get some big swings and misses. He was starting to land his breaking ball as the game went along. And to finish his outing the way he did was very, very impressive. Obviously he's not trying to hit Perez. He's trying to pound him in after the home run opposite field. That pitch got away from him. But other than that, in the Perez homer, they didn't do a ton against him, and that's a credit to Lance and his stuff.
AJ, you guys have had incredible highs this year and then some lows, but that 7th where you're up 6-2 and the crowd's ear-splitting, and then to the 8th, is that the biggest? That has to be the biggest up and down you guys have had all year.
I guess I'm not really into ranking that kind of stuff. It's just like ranking losses. I mean, you either win or you lose, and we've got Game 5. We got just as good a chance to win Game 5 as the Royals, and we're gonna hop on a plane. We're gonna go work out tomorrow, and we're gonna show up ready to play in Game 5. It's gonna be an electric atmosphere, at Kauffman Stadium. So. The emotional swings in this game, they happen all the time, and in playoff baseball, it can get crazy, and no one's going to give up on the season. No one's going to give up on a game. That's demonstrated today, and they came out on top. But at the end of the day, in a playoff series, the way this series has gone, if you take a step back, it doesn't surprise me that it's going to come down to Game 5. Both teams are going to be ready to play, and I'd expect a good one.
Okay, Jerome.
What I was going to ask was that the message to them when you came into the clubhouse that as crushing as it wasn't the end of the series.
Yeah, I don't have to give any message to our team. I'm going to spend the next 24 hours with them, and then leading up to the game, we know exactly what's at stake. This group, man, they are as resilient as any group I've ever been around in any role that I've served in this sport. They don't need to be told that was a tough loss. They don't need to be told that Game 5 is a big game. We will show up with our personality. We're going to give it everything we have to continue the season. As is the club across the way. So everyone that watched that game, everybody that was a part of that game knows how difficult it is to feel like that game was closing in our favor, and then have it not go our way. But it's big boy sport. We'll adjust, and we'll be ready to play.
Just two more, AJ. Tracy?
AJ, with a young team, the travel day tomorrow, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's probably a good thing for us. I mean, physically, Correa gets hit in the elbow. Altuve fouls another ball off his foot. Give our relievers a chance to breathe a little bit. The extra day for McHugh will be nice. Castro's been going at it pretty hard. So from a physical standpoint, I think it's a very good thing. From a mental standpoint, I mean, there'll be a little bit of anxiousness to get to Game 5. I mean, these are fun games. I know it doesn't feel that way coming out of this game with a loss, and we're not celebrating. But we've continued to put ourselves in a position where we control our own destiny to advance, and we have that. So we'll use the day tomorrow to recoup a little bit, get the taste of this game out of our mouth, and be prepared to get after it in Game 5.
And the last question, Evan?
Odd were those bounces on the ball that tied. They got by Sip and also by Correa. And more generally, does the way that inning unfolded speak to the roster construction of these two teams, a high-contact Royals team and a contact bullpen?
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of putting the ball in play, which they did it in Game 2, ended in their favor. They did it in Game 4. Now it's ended in their favor. I mean, they got hits, and it's they found different ways. I don't think they were directing the ball, where they ended up going. But contact's your friend sometimes, and we certainly have a contact-driven bullpen. We have a really good defense. The ball checks up on Correa, which is a little bit unlucky. It goes from a double play ball, with Morales running to a extremely different outcome. So how it's constructed, how it works. This team across the way didn't get to the World Series last year by accident, and so they're a good club. They put up some really good at-bats, and we also didn't get to Game 5 by accident either. We got a pretty good team. We've got a good, resilient group. We've got youth on our side. We'll have a ton of energy, and we'll show up ready to play.